Give us a firsthand view of watching that in person, because we haven't seen many of those games this year from this Leafs team.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, I thought I was watching US versus Canada with the fight off the opening draw there, and good on Matthew Nyes and good on Zach Whitecloud, right, for accepting the scrap. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we got something here. I don't know if Zach knew that Nyes was a southpaw. I think he found out the hard way there, but neither of those guys are really big fighters. So I love that they kind of settled their own score, and it's not like Nyes asked someone else to do it for them. So love the start. All of a sudden, there's energy in the building. Tons of Leaf fans. Like you could imagine building a bachelor party or a guy's trip or family trip, whatever, around the Leafs in one stop a year in Vegas. So there's tons of energy in the building. And then all of a sudden, the Leafs actually had some good zone time, but really porous in terms of giving up the odd man rushes, no rush defense whatsoever. Joseph Woll's having a bad night, and before you know it, they're down 3-0 and they're pulling the goalie, and the game's over. Right at that point, maybe against a lesser opponent like a Blue Jackets or something, maybe they can summon one of their magical comebacks, but they look tired. Vegas is too mature and structured, and Aiden Hill was zoned in. Like they weren't coming back. So all of a sudden, you're just like kind of killing time at that point. The game's done.
Yeah, Luke, have you noticed the departure, the absence of Chris Tanev since him going down? I mean, you look at that right side, you look at some of the breakdowns, the odd man rushes. I mean, have you noticed firsthand the absence of that guy and the gaping hole that he leaves in their back end?
Oh, 100%. They miss him. I mean, you think they might need more defense even when he's healthy, but you subtract him from the lineup, and there's just too many grade A's. And it's not only the chances against, it's also he makes so many good zone exits by himself, like quick retrievals, smart first pass. Kind of, you don't even, it's almost like you don't notice that he's doing it because he does it so smoothly. He's got a great stick, and of course, he chips in on the penalty kill, all those things. Yeah, they miss him. And then as a result of him being out of the lineup, all of a sudden you're getting way too much Timmins and Benoit. Myers is in your top four. You're asking OEL and Riley to go against tougher competition than you normally would without the shutdown pair of McCabe and Tanev. So it's a tough look. It's a reminder that they're going to need him healthy for the playoffs. They probably need another defenseman anyway, because the Hakanpää experiment, flopped, to be quite frank. But the good news is that, Tanev did participate in a full morning skate, looked pretty good. I asked Berube, he said he's possible to play as soon as Saturday in Denver. So that's the positive. That's the positive.
Yeah, I don't know who this Hakanpää guy is you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Klingberg 2.0, man. We talked about it earlier on this year, but I wanted to ask you about the crease. Boys, 20 games remaining in the regular season, if you can believe it. Do you think they have to be etching out a bit more playing time now for Stolarz getting prepared for game one here? Are we at that point?
I think it's fine with a bit of a rotation. I mean, they have so much travel and so many games compacted that I don't mind a bit of a rotation, but I do feel like all of a sudden there's a clear number one, and we're running out of runway here for Joseph Woll to snatch this thing back. I looked back at his numbers last March and last April, and his save percentage fell off a cliff, guys, once Ilya Samsonov started stacking wins, and it became apparent that there was a battle to be that game one starter, and Samsonov passed him. Now maybe that's a one-off, but what history tells us is maybe Joseph Woll doesn't love the idea that there's a competition here and a real legitimate competitor, because Stolarz has been on his game, and it just so happens that Woll's worst two games happened immediately after Craig Berube talked to us in New York City and said, you know what, going into the playoffs, I'd rather have one guy. That's usually the way I like to roll. All of a sudden, the pressure and the spotlight on the battle for that spot goes up, and Woll's first two starts since that haven't been great. Now, he was a little bit sick before the Pittsburgh start, and he has been good for most of the season, so you want to cut him some slack. But as I mentioned, time's running out in terms of taking the taking the baton back from Stolarz here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he responds there. It's no secret in the Toronto Maple Leafs world, they need a depth center, right-handed D. What are you seeing as the most important and most valuable thing? Time's ticking down here. Tree hasn't done anything yet. People are starting to get a little squirrely about it. If they can only cover one of those options, what do you think is the most important?
Yeah, their priority is still the forward, preferably a center, but they are in the Rantanen conversations, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
He's easily the best guy available, right? So, you kind of make an exception if you can get a superstar and proven playoff performer like Rantanen. That, changes the equation a bit, but they are prioritizing a center, whether it's, going back to the Braden Schenn well, getting in the Brock Nelson sweepstakes, Scott Lawton, may be an option. It's a seller's market though, guys. Like there aren't a ton of options. They kind of liked Gord, but he's gone. I thought maybe Jake Evans would be kind of a cheaper fit. He re-signed in Montreal. Like it's drying up fast here. But I actually agree with you. I think they do need two pieces. Like I think they do need a right shot D as well as a center. So, and they only have so many assets. Like they're in a tough spot, and it's only getting tougher as guys get crossed off the board.
I got a two-part question for you, Luke. The first of which I tweeted last night. Do you think Kyle Dubas robbed us of multiple Stanley Cups in Toronto? And what the hell was that Luke Schenn trade? Will he be a Maple Leaf this time, maybe tomorrow?
Well, the Schenn thing, I don't think he's ruling out flipping him. And I know some people might say, well, he's not going to make a deal with Brendan Shanahan. But, him and Brad Treliving have a really good relationship, Dubas and Treliving. So it's going to be Brad making those calls, not Brendan, I'm sure. It's a possibility. So I haven't, I'm not ruling out a flip there, a bit of a kind of an out of nowhere trade. I don't really love it from Nashville's perspective either. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what you're getting in Michael Bunting these days. And I think Barry Trotz is a bit scrambling. I love the guy as a coach, but things have been rough for him so far. Did Dubas rob the Leafs of cups? I think he took a wild swing in terms of thinking the league was going in a direction that it wasn't going in yet. He went total counter to logic. Instead of building from the net out, he built forwards back. He didn't prioritize real big defending type defensemen. He made some mistakes at the goaltending position for sure. Continues to make goaltending mistakes in his new job. And it was a wild swing. It was really forward thinking. And you think maybe he's going to get ahead of the curve. And I bet on talent, right? Bet on talent. You get enough game breakers, maybe they can carry you through. But I think he realized, no, you need depth. Hockey's not basketball. And yeah, we can wonder if in a different alternate universe, if they would have won a cup. I really think 2020, in that Montreal series, that was their year. It was so wide open, that bracket, to get to the final. And that was the one I thought they really blew.
Ugh, you had to bring that up. Hey?
Yeah,
Go Thornton, baby, love it.
Nick's the one that went deep into the history books.
I did. My bad. Go ahead,
Luke, what as far as like what everyone's calling for all these changes to be made, and I'm looking at our arsenal, and it's like, well, but no one wants to move the first, and no one wants to move Minton or Cowan. Like, can anything be done with? Like, I don't even see how one deal gets done without moving, one of those prospects or that draft pick. Like, are people crazy in thinking that Treliving has the ability to make these moves without disrupting the pipeline?
For a difference maker, they are crazy. Like Brock Nelson's not going for something lower than that. Like, okay, so last year at this time, Adam Henrique, right, went for a first, and he was like third liner for the Oilers. But they went to a cup final, came within a couple goals of winning a Stanley Cup, and Henrique was a valuable role player. The market is expensive. Apparently, they're asking for a first for Scott Lawton, and on a good team, he's bottom six. So, yeah, they are crazy if they think they're going to get something. If fans think they're going to get something of significance without parting with the first, Minton, Cowan, Danford. Could they use their second this year to get a depth defenseman, Could they mess around the fringes and not spend much and not get much back and do Connor Dewar, Ilya Lyubushin type deals? Sure. They could add some depth that way without dipping into the pool. But you look at what Florida and Tampa are doing, is that going to satisfy A, the fan base, B, the players in the room? Like Austin Matthews, when I asked him yesterday about does this team need a boost, and him basically saying, yeah, look around the division. We'd like to do something as well. I'm sure my manager's doing his homework and doing a lot of thinking right now. That adds pressure too. So I don't know if it's going to satisfy the room. I don't think it'll satisfy the fan base. And I don't know if it'll most importantly, I don't know if it'll satisfy the product on the ice that really needs to get that number one spot, because that 2-3 matchup between either both the Florida teams or Toronto and one of the Florida teams is going to be a killer.
You referenced Matthews' comments. What was your read on that?
I thought they were strong because, we talked to him a lot. He could have, I just said, when I put it out there, deadline thoughts, do you want to boost? He could say that we're just worried about playing. Let management do its thing. We're sorted out. He could have said, we believe we have enough right here. Anything would be a bonus. But no, he said, you look around. Everyone else is adding. We'd like to add too. I think that's a strong comment from your captain, from arguably the person in the Maple Leafs organization that may have more power than the president, than the GM, than the coach. I mean, Matthews' word carries great weight in that organization, not unlike, say, Connor's in Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
I felt the same way, honestly. That was sort of my read on Matthews' commentary there. And I actually liked the fact that he stepped up and said, help us out. Just to wrap up, what's it been like covering this team the last little while? Like, I mean, is all hands on deck on this trip? Like Shanahan, everybody getting ready for this deadline?
Yeah, the whole gang's here, and that's abnormal. Usually sometimes Brad doesn't travel on every road trip. Shanahan certainly doesn't travel on every road trip. He does some, but yeah, Pridham, Doan, the gang's all here. And throughout that Vegas game, in the back of the press box, every intermission, even during some of the gameplay, Trey Living's pacing with the phone pressed to his ear. Like he's grinding. He's trying to make this happen. And we're going to find out less than 48 hours here, guys.
What's your prediction, Luke?
Oh boy. I honestly think it might be underwhelming. It might be like Lawton or Nelson. I think the Rantanen one is just too tough. I know they're trying, but you're going to have to give up a roster player. If I'm Carolina, I'm asking for Matthew Nyes. And if I'm Toronto, I'm not letting Nyes go. And, does Bobby McMahon get it done? I don't know if he does. Yeah. I don't think that's good enough. Yeah.
I'm very curious to see what happens over the next 24 hours or so here. But nevertheless, thank you so much for your time and safe travels to Denver here. All
right. It's going to be a fun little day and a half here. All right.
Take care, guys. Luke.
Take care, Luke.
Right.
That is Luke Fox of Sportsnet and Sportsnet.ca, following the team on a daily basis. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.